I've got something I just have to tell Mom. Emma hesitated for a moment, taking a breath. But then, as if she'd made up her mind, she began speaking with force. I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore. Paying $5,000 a month for your husband's care is just too much for me. I've reached my limit, she said, tears streaming down her face. I couldn't understand what Emma was saying. $5,000 a month for care? What are you talking about? There's no need for care. My husband passed away 8 years ago. You know that, don't you? What? But Ryan said he needed the money for care. I didn't hear anything about your husband passing away. I'm so confused. Emma seemed truly unaware. I too couldn't fully grasp the situation, but the fact that my husband was gone was undeniable. I haven't heard anything about his passing. It's true, Emma pleaded desperately. I was sure she wasn't lying from her behavior so far, and I knew her well enough to know she wasn't the type to say such things. About 6 months ago, Ryan came to me saying he needed money for his father's care. He said he had received a lot of financial support from his parents during his student days and that it was his turn to give back. Hearing Emma's feeble voice, an anger like none I had felt before began to swell within me. I could easily imagine how much she had been struggling. I was certain that Ryan was lying. Given the situation, there was no doubt. I could overlook some things, but not telling his wife about his father's death and extorting money from her was unforgivable. I had to make Ryan realize his wrongdoings. Otherwise, I couldn't face my husband in heaven. With that determination, I approached Emma with a plan. Listen, let's gather evidence of Ryan's misdeeds together. We'll collect everything so he can't make any excuses, and then we'll confront him about it. My name is Sally. After graduating from nursing school, I started working at a public hospital in the city. The job was tough, but it's there that I met my husband. Initially, he came to the hospital as a patient. I was assigned as his nurse. As I nursed him, he would often talk to me. I was somewhat interested in him, so I engaged in these conversations. These chats during my tough job were a great source of enjoyment for me. And when he was finally discharged, he gave me his contact information. If you want, please get in touch. I didn't hesitate and contacted him right away. We then started dating officially. I later learned that he had fallen for me at first sight and was trying his hardest to get my attention. I found this incredibly endearing. Our relationship continued without any major fights. He was a very gentle person. And so, I married him. Our relationship remained good after marriage, and a few years later, our son Ryan was born. From that time, my husband's work became busier, and he was home less often. When the family was together, we would happily go out for meals or travel. A few more years passed, and Ryan went to college. The college was quite far, only reachable by plane. I felt anxious sending my son so far away, but reminded myself it was for his future. Ryan would come home during long vacations. He didn't seem much different, actually seemed brighter, so I felt reassured. But being a science major, his education was quite expensive. Ryan often asked me for money. Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm short this month. I need more money. Didn't I just send you some? What are you spending all this money on? It's for college stuff. All the books they ask us to buy are specialized and really expensive. And then there's equipment for research, materials, and so on. Ryan pleaded desperately. There's also living expenses. It's really tough, you know. I'm working a part-time job, but it's still not enough, he said in a near-crying voice. Hearing his voice made my heart tighten. I imagined how lonely Ryan must feel, living far from home. Our own life wasn't easy, but I thought I must help him no matter what. Okay, I'll send it within the week, don't worry. Thanks, Mom. Ryan sounded so happy when he heard my response. Just hearing that made me feel inexplicably happy. This continued until Ryan graduated from college. After graduation, he successfully got a job in a company in a city. I would have preferred him to come back home, but it couldn't be helped. The college was a distance that required a plane ride, but now it's reachable by train. It's closer, so that's good. But Ryan seems busier with work and hardly comes home anymore.
Hey, Ryan. When are you coming home next? Let me know when you decide. Sorry, Mom. Work's so busy, I don't think I can make it. It's almost like I don't have days off. I can get called in by my boss unexpectedly, so I can't really come home. I see. It's tough, but it's good to work hard. Just don't overdo it. If you're feeling overwhelmed, make sure to talk to me. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Ryan said and quickly hung up. His somewhat indifferent attitude hurt me. But I convinced myself it was inevitable. Ryan's a grown man now, and I probably shouldn't meddle too much. Trying to suppress my loneliness, I told myself this and refrained from calling him. I didn't want to disturb his work. For a while, we didn't contact each other. However, one day, Ryan called out of the blue. Hey, Mom, it's been a while. Everything is good?
I'm fine. What's up?
Well, I'm getting married.
What? What do you mean?
I met someone and we just clicked. We've decided to get married. I've already met her parents. We'll be coming home soon to introduce her to you.
Okay, I'll be waiting.
I said, hanging up. Ryan was finally getting married. Just thinking about it made my heart race. What kind of woman is she? Will I get to see my grandchildren? All sorts of thoughts raced through my mind. I happily marked the calendar for their visit. And finally, the day arrived. Ryan's girlfriend, Emma, was a quiet, beautiful, and kind-hearted woman. I liked her right away. She seemed perfect for Ryan. There was no reason to oppose their marriage, and things moved quickly. Ryan and Emma got married without a hitch. After the wedding, when Ryan was home, Emma helped me with my work. She seemed to think highly of me, and there were no mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues. But as time passed, Ryan became busier and had less time to visit home. The phone calls became rarer, and now there were none. I felt lonely, but I guess young people prefer spending time with each other. Out of consideration for Ryan and his wife, I decided not to call unless it was an emergency. After that, our communication was minimal. Except for a call on my birthday, there was no interaction for a long time. But a year later, I suddenly received a call from Emma.
Hello, Sally. It's been a while,
she said in a somber tone. I was concerned by her mood but didn't want to pry.
Oh, Emma. Long time no see. Is Ryan doing well?
Yes, he's fine. But there's something I have to tell you.
What's the matter? Something happened?
Emma hesitated for a moment. Then, as if making up her mind, began speaking forcefully. I'm sorry, I just can't do it anymore. Paying $5,000 a month for your husband's care is too much for me. I've reached my limit, she said, crying. I couldn't understand what Emma was saying.
$5,000 a month for care? What are you talking about?
Don't joke with me.
But there's no need for care. My husband passed away 8 years ago. You know that, don't you?
What? But Ryan said he needed money for care. I didn't hear anything about your husband passing away. What's going on? I'm so confused. Emma seemed genuinely unaware. I too couldn't fully grasp the situation. But the fact that my husband was gone was undeniable.
Listen, Emma. My husband passed away 8 years ago. His chronic illness worsened, and indeed, he had required care before that,
I said, trying not to upset Emma.
I told Ryan how hard it was to take care of my husband. But I never asked for money.
I can't believe it. I haven't heard anything about his passing. It's true, Emma insisted desperately. I was sure she wasn't lying from her behavior so far. I knew her well enough to know she wasn't the type to say such things. I recounted the time of my husband's death in as much detail as possible to Emma.
When my husband was critically ill and it became dangerous, I contacted Ryan. He came home then.
Emma gasped on the other end of the phone. She apparently didn't know that either.
But, Emma, you didn't come back. I heard you were busy with an overseas business trip and couldn't make it back,
I said, feeling a pang in my heart. But at that time, I was too preoccupied with my husband to think about Emma.
Overseas business trip? I work in an office. I've never been on a business trip abroad, not even once,
Emma exclaimed, surprised.
Why would Ryan say such a thing? Where did all the caregiving money I've been paying go?
Emma was clearly shaken on the phone. But after a while, she began to explain the situation.
About 6 months ago, Ryan came to me saying he needed money for his father's care. He said he had received a lot of financial support from his parents during his student days and that it was his turn to give back.
Hearing Emma's feeble voice, an anger like none I had felt before began to swell within me.
So, at first, I willingly paid. But the amount kept increasing, and now it's $5,000 a month,
she said with a deep sigh. I could easily imagine how much she had been struggling.
Even so, I've been using my savings to make the payments, but honestly, I can't do it anymore. That's why I called you.
Hearing her words, I was sure Ryan was lying. The situation was clear. I couldn't overlook it, not telling his wife about his father's death and extorting money from her. If this demand escalated, it could even lead to a serious incident. I had to make Ryan realize his wrongdoings. Otherwise, I couldn't face my husband in heaven. I decided and then proposed a plan to Emma.
Emma, I believe you. It's clear Ryan is lying.
Really?
I was so foolish. I should have told you sooner. Then this wouldn't have happened. No, it's not your fault. But we can't just let this go. Listen, let's gather evidence of Ryan's misdeeds together. We'll collect everything so he can't make any excuses, and then we'll confront him about it. What should I do? Well, Emma, I'd like you to collect any evidence you can find at home. Maybe in his study? There should be receipts and documents. I'll hire a private investigator to look into Ryan's background. He's probably up to more than this. Okay. I'll be careful and gather the evidence. I'll also use social media to see if I can find any information about Ryan. I'll contact you if I find anything.
She ended the call. Initially, she was shaken, but not anymore. She was determined to thoroughly search for evidence. I searched the net for a private investigator and immediately requested an investigation into Ryan. A few weeks later, I visited Ryan's house. I had asked Emma when Ryan would be off. Emma guided me into the living room. Ryan, unaware of anything, was relaxing there. He was surprised to see me.
Mom, what are you doing here? You should have told me you were coming. Sorry for not informing you. I just needed to talk to you about something. All right. But I have something to do now. I'll hear the details from Emma.
Ryan seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly stood up, agitated, and tried to leave.
Sit down,
I shouted at Ryan. He was startled and fumbled around. Emma, expressionless, went over to Ryan and made him sit on the sofa. Ryan looked back and forth between me and Emma, clearly disturbed.
You see, Ryan, I got a call from Emma the other day. She said you've been making her pay $5,000 a month for caregiving.
Ryan's expression twisted, and he bit his lip, realizing his actions had been exposed.
But that's strange, isn't it? Since Dad's no longer with us. Whose caregiving costs are these?
Tell me. Ryan didn't answer for a while. He looked down, scratching his head.
No answer? Then I'll change my question. Emma didn't know about Dad's death.
Emma watched Ryan with cold eyes.
You said she couldn't come because she was on an overseas business trip, right? But Emma has never been on a business trip abroad, let alone any trip. What about that?
Ryan still said nothing, looking down.
Say something!
I shouted louder than before, infuriated by Ryan's silence. Emma was also staring at Ryan sternly, lips tightly sealed. Ryan sighed heavily and rubbed his face with both hands.
Listen, we already know you've been lying. We've gathered plenty of evidence, so keeping quiet now is pointless,
I said, trying to reason with him. Confronting him aggressively wouldn't make him reflect. I wanted him to understand why his actions were wrong.
Now, about the $5,000 you swindled from Emma. What did you use it for?
Tell the truth. Ryan was silent for a while, but eventually, he began to speak weakly.
I thought I'd use that money to start a business. My current job is tough, and I thought starting my own business would increase my income and allow me to work more freely.
He mumbled. His eyes shifted left and right. I wanted to argue immediately, but decided to let him finish speaking.
I know I did wrong to Emma and you. I was afraid to tell the truth because I thought I'd be opposed. I'm truly sorry,
Ryan said and apologized.
Good, you finally spoke up. Now, look at me,
I said kindly. Ryan looked up, relieved, but then I dropped papers and photos in front of him. There were reports from the private investigator and documents Emma had found at home. Ryan's face turned pale at the sight.
Looks like you've been in debt since college and even squandered money on nightclubs. You've been living quite lavishly, haven't you? And that's not all. You even made debts in my name,
Emma added, pressing the documents against Ryan's face.
Did you think $5,000 a month wasn't enough? Am I just a convenient ATM to you? Say something.
Emma seemed to have reached her limit. Grabbing Ryan by the collar, shaking him.
Remember, Ryan, I told you, we know all about your lies and have all the evidence,
I said, stopping Emma and explaining again to Ryan. Ryan, now frightened by Emma's scolding, listened silently.
We know how you've been spending your money, what your private life is like, everything. So trying to hide it now is useless.
Ryan groaned softly, ruffling his hair. I didn't let that distract me and kept talking.
We want to hear everything from you. Understand? So, tell us everything.
Ryan finally seemed to give in, starting to talk while shedding tears.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It was all a lie,
he confessed, tears falling to the floor.
In college, I asked for money for study materials, but it was all for fun. I wasn't working. I spent all the money on shopping and hanging out with friends.
I finally felt a bit relieved that Ryan was telling the truth.
What did you do after you started working? After I started working, I went to nightclubs. I took a liking to one of the girls there. I had to pay a lot to get her attention, or she wouldn't even look my way. But you were clearly spending more than you were earning, right? How did you manage that? By the time I realized it, I couldn't borrow money under my own name anymore. But I had to pay off my debts. So I borrowed money using Emma's name. I secretly took her ID and processed it online.
Emma seemed about to say something when she heard this, but I gestured to her to wait. I had decided to let Ryan confess everything first.
I had no other choice. But that failed too, so I started swindling money from Emma under the guise of caregiving costs. I'm really sorry.
Ryan then broke down, crying loudly like a child. But the ones who should be crying are Emma and I. I exchanged a look with Emma and sighed heavily. Ryan's pitiful state seemed to have dampened her spirit to reprimand him. After sobbing for a while, Ryan apologized again. I'm truly sorry. I deeply regret my actions. I won't do the same thing again. I swear it here. I'll definitely repay the money. Please forgive me, Ryan begged. But his words were hard to trust. He had been deceiving those close to him all along. It was obvious that he would repeat the same mistakes even if forgiven. Ryan, it's over. I can't trust a word you say. We never intended to forgive you from the start. But this isn't the end. Be prepared. An hour later, someone knocked at the door. Emma went to answer it. Ryan watched her nervously. The women who came in with Emma. Seeing their faces, Ryan gasped in shock. Ryan, you know these women, right? They're all your ex-girlfriends. You can't say you've forgotten them. You were their gigolo, weren't you? Emma glared at Ryan as she spoke coldly. How? Why are all of them here? We found out from Sally's investigation that you were gigoloing these women. I contacted them through social media to apologize, saying I wanted to sincerely express my regret. Despair filled Ryan's eyes, realizing what was about to unfold. Then the word spread. Thanks to that, all your ex-girlfriends came to support me. Now, ladies, please speak your hearts out. Emma's words were the cue to start. His ex-girlfriends began exposing Ryan's misdeeds. Ryan, red-faced, endured the barrage silently. Listening to them, I felt ashamed. How did my son end up like this? Where did I go wrong in raising him? Hearing the revelations, I felt so embarrassed that I wished I could just disappear into a hole. After the revelations, Emma placed a divorce paper on the table. Ryan, I can no longer live with you. Please sign here and now. Also, write a pledge to pay alimony and repay the loans you took without my knowledge. No, wait. Emma, let's calm down. This isn't right. I'll really change. Please reconsider. I can't make it without you. Ryan pleaded pathetically, but his ex-girlfriends collectively scolded him for his antics. There was no one on Ryan's side in the room. Eventually, Ryan reluctantly agreed to their divorce and wrote a pledge to comply with Emma's demands. After finishing, he turned to me, tears streaming, begging for help. Mom, I'm really sorry. This is my last selfish request. Please help me repay the money. I realize I did terrible things by deceiving everyone. But I can't handle this alone. Please. Sally, you don't need to help this man. Just leave him be. I stared deeply into Ryan's eyes, recalling all the memories we shared. The warmth of holding him for the first time, the happy days spent with him and my husband, the sadness of sending him off to college. All these memories felt like they happened just yesterday. No matter how bad he was, he's still my irreplaceable son. All right, Ryan. No matter what you've done, you're still my precious son. Ryan's eyes lit up with joy at my words. I don't think I'm entirely blameless. Maybe I made you feel lonely without realizing it. I spoke, feeling truly sorry for Ryan in my heart. So, I'll take responsibility. I'll take care of you till the end. I promise. Thank you, Mom. Really, thank you. Ryan clutched my hands, crying. That's when it happened. Someone visited again, and Emma went to answer it. Several well-built men in suits entered the living room. Hello, we're the ones you requested. Is this Ryan? One of the men asked in a deep voice. Yes, that's him. We're done talking, so you can take him now. Sure. The men replied shortly and lifted Ryan by his arms. Caught off guard, Ryan screamed and struggled, but he was no match for their strength. Mom, what's going on? Who are these guys? Hey, stop! Let me go! I do want to help you get back on your feet, Ryan. But I'm too old to handle it. So I consulted with a private investigator, and they recommended a good rehabilitation facility. I explained, pausing as my heart ached. Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes as he looked at me. I steeled myself and continued. You will be straightening out your rotten ways there. This is the last kindness I can offer you. This can't be happening. You can't do this. Let me go. Please, Emma, someone, help me. Ryan pleaded desperately, but Emma and his ex-girlfriends didn't move. They just watched him coldly.
Don't worry. It's not a dangerous place. You'll just have your daily life and work managed while living there. If you're truly sorry, you'll listen, right?
No, I don't want this. I swear. I'll really change, so please help me. Despite his struggles, Ryan was taken away. Only then did I allow myself to cry. I never wanted to do this. But the problem was too big. If I didn't act, Ryan would continue to bring misery to himself and others.
I'm sorry, Ryan.
I apologized from the bottom of my heart. Emma came over and comforted me. Her eyes were also filled with tears. With Ryan in the facility, all the problems were temporarily resolved. The debts he created were his to repay. He's been making monthly payments into Emma's account without fail. The amount was too large for a lump sum payment, so it will take a long time to settle. But it's a consequence of his own actions. The staff from the facility occasionally update me on Ryan. At first, he tried to escape whenever he had the chance. However, after being earnestly educated by the staff, he's now quietly living his daily life. I hope he truly reforms from the heart. Since then, Emma has been living alone. Thankfully, her salary is sufficient, so she's not struggling. I feel deeply sorry for what happened. Emma could have been dragged into a life-altering situation due to a debt she knew nothing about. I can't apologize enough to her. But Emma doesn't seem to hold anything against me. To her, the fault lies solely with Ryan, not me. In fact, Emma still visits my house every few months. Mainly for tourism, but she brings various souvenirs, chats, and helps with household chores. Our relationship as in-laws may have ended, but it feels like we've grown closer. For me, who lost my husband and sent my son to a facility, Emma's visits are a great joy. Now, I look forward to her visits as I live my life peacefully alone.